Okay, so while we are waiting for David to come in, anyone has got anything to share or anything to ask on our previous discussions?
Keep practicing.
Okay.
What about meditation times for how long to meditate?
Recommendation is an hour, if you can.
Yeah.
Okay. And then again, it's supposed to go along with the walking meditation as well. So the walking and the sitting supposed to go similar amount. Suppose you're doing for an hour sitting, then supposed to do an hour walking. And normally walking first and then sitting. And this is again helps us to balance the 5 factors. It's called the saddha, viriya, sati, samadhi and panya. Saddha is confidence and faith, and normally that's supposed to go along with the wisdom. Meanwhile, our virya, the energy, sometimes we may have a lot of motivation, enthusiasm to practice, or maybe just having a thought of, I want to be enlightened today, and then pushing yourself hard and practicing, and that's not good. It's supposed to go along with samadhi, concentration. So and there is and the middle one's called the mindfulness, the sati, always there, as the one who rides the chariot, able to control the horse. So mindfulness is there at the middle. Although mindfulness do need to understand these each factors, which is the leading factor. And these leading factors, in order to bring into balance, the reason that we have to practice equally both walking and sitting meditation. So normally the suggestion would be an hour, not more than an hour. Right? Although some do practice many hours, but I would not suggest you to do that. Hour is enough. Right? And this 1 hour again, you can choose your own time, morning, afternoon or evening time. And when you bring into balance with this walking and sitting meditation, in balance is these 5 factors, and these 5 factors from the leading factors, it becomes the power. So our faith and confidence becomes believing in that if I practice, it helps me to gain the wisdom. So you have a firm confirmation of belief, and with that, and this will be leading as a power to reinforcing yourself to practice continuously. With that continued practicing, concentration also develops, and wisdom and knowledge also becomes gradually refined. And with that refined, the factors for the enlightenment arises. The 7 factors. So that's how it develops in this way. So 7 factors. Anybody remember? Anyone? 7 factors of enlightenment? No? Oh, okay. So 7 factors of enlightenment is sati again, beginning with the sati. And here the sati is like a pure form, firmly established, which we do not have to condition to observe these body, feelings and mind and so on. It's already there. It's like a knowing as they appear, always alert and awake state of the mind, and ability to investigate the phenomena that arises. Any phenomena, seeing things, seeing all those phenomena as a subject to the impermanence and ability to discern. So like that. So gradually from there, then you will get samadhi, you will get the piti. So piti here, not in English term, it's a rejoice and happiness. More concentration develops, like that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So right. Okay then. We will read the Pali first. Today we are on page 4. Okay. We have covered the first passage last week. So today, again, we will go again from the beginning, the Anakaya Anapasana. Okay, the Anapana Pabbam. Kathancha apana bhikkhave bhikkhu kaye kayanupassi viharati idha bhikkhave bhikkhu aranyagato va rukkha mulagato va sunyākārakato va nisidati pallankam avujita va ujjhungkāyam panidhāya parimukham sating upathapeta va so sato va atsasati sato va patsasati dīkham va atsasanto dīkham atsasamiti pachanati dīkham va patsasanto dīkham patsasamiti pachanati rasam va atsasanto rasam atsasamiti pachanati rasam va patsasanto rasam patsasamiti pachanati sabba kaya pati samvedhi asasissamiti sikkhati sabba kaya pati samvedhi passasissamiti sikkhati Pasam bhayam kaya sankharang asasissamiti sikkhati Pasam bhayam kaya sankharang passasissamiti sikkhati Sayyathapi bhikkhave dakho bhamakaro va bhamakarante va siva Dīgham va anchanto dīgham anchamiti pajanati Rasam va anchanto rasam anchamiti pajanati Evameva ko bhikkhave bhikkhu dīgham va atsasanto dīgham atsasamiti pajanati Dīgham va passasanto dīgham passasamiti pajanati Rasam va atsasanto rasam assasamiti pajanati Rasam va patsasanto rasam passasamiti pajanati Sabba kaya pati samvedhi assasissamiti sikkhati Sabba kaya pati samvedhi passasissamiti sikkhati Pasang bhayang kaya sankharang assasissamiti sikkhati Asanghayang kaya sankharang pasasisami tisikkati. Iti ajjhatang va kaye kayanupassi viharati. Bahidda va kaye kayanupassi viharati. Ajjhatta bahidda va kaye kayanupassi viharati. Samudaya dhammanupassi va kayasmin viharati. Vaya dhammanupassi va kayasmin viharati. Samudaya vaya dhammanupassi va kayasmin viharati. Atthikayoti va panassa sati paccupatthita hoti. Yavadeva jnana mattaya patisati mattaya anisito ca viharati naca kinci loke upadiyati evam pikho bhikkhave bhikkhu kaye kayanupassi viharati. So this is the first practice of Kayanupassana. Right? And in this particular section explains the place that I mentioned last time, going to the forest or empty hut or under the tree, and then telling us how to sit down and how to bring the mindfulness at front, and after that practicing breathing meditation. So here only the 4 ways of practicing breathing meditation, and it's a part of the Anapana sati, which has got a 16 different way of practicing the breathing meditation. So that we have covered, and now this next passage is Sayyathapi bhikkhave dakho bhamakaro va bhamakarante vasi va dighang va anchanto dighang anchamiti pajanati. Rasang va anchanto rasang anchamiti pajanati. So this is example. The sentence ends here. Example, Sayyathapi, in this way. Just like that. In this way. As the turner or a carpenter. Carpenter knows how to use the turner to sharpening, and which when we were working in the barn, I tried to do it, and it was electric one. So if you do second time, then you have to do all again. So you have to know exactly how much you are pressing, and then you're moving it. So you have to be smooth moving. If you put it and then just holding there, it makes a more deeper there. So similar here, Bhamakara wa Bhamakarante va seva. So Bhamakara means the carpenter, and then the apprentice is Bhamakarante vasi. Antevasi means one who is living with, or one who is training with. Antevasi. So here, and this is also comes in the monks' Vinaya, or the rules as well. Like monks can stay, suppose monks are traveling with an assistant as a person who is not a monk, and traveling to other place, and he can stay in the same room for 3 nights. This is called living with the Antevasi. Right? And then also a monk who is living in a temple under someone's senior monk, and that person is known Antevasi. So living together as a trainer. Right? So that's why here is translated as apprentice. They know how you turn. Yeah. So it said dighang va anchanto. Dighang means a long turn. You know this is a long turn. Yeah? And then rasangva anchanto. So and then short turn, you know the short turns. Right? Pajanati, knowing. So knowing the turn. I remember when I was like about 2008, when I was reading this translation, then the turner, skillful turner. What is this skillful turner? I couldn't understand. Turn is turn. And then turning, a turner, what is turn? And then I imagine maybe it is referring to a truck driver that's turning. The lorry driver is turning. So they have to turn properly. And if you are trained, doesn't matter how long the truck is, the lorry is, they know exactly how to turn it around, even though a small road. So that's also similar here as well. Knowing how long and how short exactly. And so eva meva ko. Eva meva, like that. Okay? Eva meva. Like that, ko, bhikkhave bhikkhu. And again, this is referring to breathing meditation, that long breath you know, short breath you know. Long breath, short breath, and then sabbakaya patisamvedi, the entire breath you know. And breathing in, you know entire body. Breathing out, you know entire body. And then sabbakaya is pasang bhayang kaya sankharang asasisamiti in the next space here. And pasang bhayang kaya sankharang asasisamiti sikkati. So it's simply telling us to be mindful of this breath, like a turner, knowing how this is deep, how it is shallow, understanding of that way of doing. And this is also practice of a meditation. Now, this is easy one. This part is the easy one. Next part is the hard one. Next passage. One of the hardest one is the next passage. And here, just the word ajjhatta bahidda. These two words will come so many times throughout this book, throughout this discourse. So many times. About 20 times. And this is a hard one. Right? So saying, iti ajjhattangva kaye kayanupassi viharati. Internally. Ajjhatang, iti means in this way. Now, in this way referring to breathing in and breathing out practice. Ajjhatang, internally. So you're experiencing. So you are mindful of internally. Kaye kayanupassi viharati. You remember viharati? What does the viharati mean? Dwelling. Anupassi? Remember anupassi? No?
It's closely on the breath, isn't it?
Anupassi, following or closely. Okay?
Observing.
Anupassi, referring to going back again and again, is anupassi. To kaya. Internally in your body, going back again and again, and you're dwelling with it. And then second, bahidda kaya anupassi viharati. Bahidda here, externally. So internally and externally, you are dwelling. And then the third one, ajjhatta bahidda. The third one is internally and externally, you are mindful of your body and you're dwelling on it. Viharati. You're constantly dwelling. So this is one section. This ends one section. Now, before I explain detail, I will separate first. Okay? So this is one section. And then the next one is Samudaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasaming Viharati Vaya Samudaya Dhammanupassi. Now, Samudaya means arising. Samudaya means making or origination. Originating. Dhamma means, now Dhamma here refer in a Dhamma in a Buddhist term can be anything, all phenomena. Teachings of the Buddha called the Dhamma. And then the phenomena that you feel, it is called Dhamma. And nature is also Dhamma. So everything is Dhamma here. And here the principle of arising. Anupassi, you are following, you are concentrating on it. What? Kaya saming viharati. And with that, kaya saming, in the body, you are dwelling. Okay? And then next one is Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kaya Saming Viharati. Vaya means fading away or destruction. Vanishing. Vaya. Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kaya Saming. So the principle or the nature of dying or nature of a vanishing away, you are mindful of. And you are dwelling on it. Okay? And then the third one, Samudaya Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kaya Saming Viharati. So this is the second part. Samudaya, the origination and vanishing. So, or passing away. The Vaya means the passing. So you are mindfully dwelling in your body, observing what? The origination and then the passing away principle. So this is the second. And then attikayotiva panasa satipatthana hoti. Attikayotiva. So you are seeing your body in this way. This is the body. This is how it is. Panasa satipatthana hoti. With this, you are mindful. Your mind is established. So sati means the mindfulness. Pachupatitha honti. So in the present moment, established. Hoti, done. So this is end here. And then further, Yava Deva Jnana Mattaya Patisati Mattaya Anisitocha Viharati Nachakinchi Loke Upadiyati. So this is end here. Yavadeva, in similar way, after you are practicing in this way, that's how you will be developing Jnana Mattaya, the knowledge. Patisati Mattaya, the awareness, deeper awareness. Anishito Viharati, you have freed yourself from the attachment, all the attachment. Anishito, nisito means being attached. Anisito means not. No grasping, no attachment there. Viharati, you are dwelling. Nachakinchi loke upadiyati. There's nothing to dwell on in this world. So you are not dwelling in this world at all here. And then evam piko bhikkhave bhikkhu kaya kaya nupassa viharati. So this is how a monk dwells contemplating body in the body. Okay, this is the rough translation. Okay, this is a rough translation. And now let's go to the first word, ajjhatta, internally. And then the second one is externally. And here different people will translate differently. Different meditation masters will explain differently. So we do not know what the Buddha meant, the ajjhatta and bahidda. We do not know. The Pali scholars, they will try to break it down into the concepts and try to bring from other suttas to link it. It might be. It may be like that. It may be like this. And then the meditation masters have a different interpretation to it. Okay? And when we go to the commentaries, which was written like 2,000 years ago, again, it is saying internally means ourselves. Externally means other people. And someone, like even this book, if you read in a translation somewhere, here, let me read, it's saying what it says. He dwells observing body in the body externally, or he dwells observing body, and so didn't explain externally what does externally means. Yeah, and here is a reference number 7 externally, and here he will number 7. So yeah, bahidda is sometimes translated as outer things or observing another body. In the following section on the observation of a sensation, it has sometimes been taken to mean feeling the sensation or sensations of others. While such as experience is not impossible, it would be practiced only at a very high stage of a development. According to the sutta, the meditator is asked to sit alone somewhere in a forest. Yeah? So this is his understanding. He is saying, he's now referring, not agreeing with the commentary. So he's saying here, sitting alone in the forest, under a tree or in an empty room, and start practicing. In such a situation, observing others would be meaningless. Yeah? So commentary is saying, the externally means other people. Now his point is, you're meditating quietly yourself, and this translation of meditating of others' body would not fit in here. Yes?
When you say the commentaries, am I right, you're referring to all the commentaries of different people since the Buddha's time?
No, there is only one commentary. Okay? And then from that comment, so there is the lineage of the scripture, there is a Tripitaka, yeah? And then there is a commentary written by Buddha Ghosha, about 2,000 years ago. Okay? And then another commentary called a Tika. So that is explaining both commentaries and then the Tripitaka. Yeah? And then from this Tika, comes another further explanation called Anutika. And then after Anutika, then comes the miscellaneous. So here referring to anybody, including modern scholars. Right? So that's why when we say commentaries, then that is referring to Buddha Ghosha 2,000 years ago. So here he is basically saying that doesn't fit in. And technically it doesn't, because practice of a meditation is practicing to know yourself, right? Understand yourself. And then you're meditating, close your eyes and meditating. How can you imagine other people? And then further on, Mr. Goenka's comment here saying, you're in the forest. Nobody is there. Yeah? So, like that. And then, there is a book written by, written by Analayo, his PhD dissertation on satipatthana. He wrote full 1 chapter on it.
Can I ask something, Ajahn?
Yeah.
If the purpose of the meditation is to break the cycle of birth and born again by getting enlightened at some point, this externally cannot mean like when one are meditating and have like past lives coming. You know what I mean? It's still you, but you may be dealing with the, I don't know, with external things from
your oneself. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes, that is also one explanation given.
Okay. Can be a lot of things.
So that's why I said we do not know what the Buddha meant there. There is only speculations and then trying to make sense of it, and there are different teachers and different scholars trying to give their own reasons. What does this mean? Okay? And there are other explanations that as you meditate, gradually you will become dispassionate of your own body. So this is the first chapter, is basically to give up this is my body. So understanding that this is not my body. So this is breath conditioning to create this body, and then we cannot accept this as our body. So we are differentiating.
I've noticed when I started developing that detachment from the body, my body got very angry and started pushing me, like craving for particular food. So it was like a battle between the body and my mind. So the body says, no, I'm going to win. I'm going to kind of not let you go.
Yeah. So this is that's why the first practice of the Anapana sati, 4 things I explained last week as well, that the breath makes this body, or body makes the body, and then the combination, how the breath is conditioning this entire body to function, and then how it is. So with that we see that this is not my body. So it's basically in this way. And the explanation is given that as you meditate further on, gradually you will have an insight of your own body that this is not mine. And then you are basically referring to other people, that they also think that their body belongs to them. But in a way it's not. And that's also made out of 4 elements. That's also made out of the this breath coming in and going out, making it to happen. So that is how it's called bahidda, so others' body. And then when we talk about this, so internal body is easy. We can figure it out that this is, and still it's also a problem. Some scholars, some meditation teachers that internally means the inside one. So that basically referring to the anything that's happening inside, and you are mindful of that. And then external is anything on the surface. So like that as well. And when we talk about others' body, my body and others' body, the problem comes at the third one, because it is saying ajjhatta bahidda. Internally and externally, you are contemplating same time. How do you do? How do you do? How do you practice? Okay, so this is another topic as well. Okay, another difficult one to comprehend. Right? From my own experience, it is possible. It is possible to reflect on others' body and then reflecting our body at the same time. And this is all, again, it's the quality of the mind and how you are referring to it. And this is how I understood that compassion and kindness generated. And that's simply because you have fully understood your body, that this is not my body and this is so decaying every day, I have no control over it. Yeah? And then they have also similar my body, but that's also subject to decay, that's also not belongs to them. And then not knowing that, look at them how they are suffering. Wish they know it. So this kindness and compassion automatically generated, seeing other people, seeing others suffering. Suffering here, I mean in a Buddhist term, not like suffering in a worldly. Okay, so and with this, then you can relate to it, and then in those situations, I mean, you may be able to experience it in the future as well. In those cases, you have to have awareness of how you are feeling as well. So you have to be mindful of this mental thoughts about relating to it. And if you are not mindful, then it may makes you feel bored. It makes you feel worthless. And this is also referring during the time of the Buddha, there were monks after receiving the practice of a kaya kata sati. That's reflecting on the body parts, different body parts, kesa, loma, naka, danta, tacho, like that, and then referring to the body and practicing. And later on, they realized, oh, this body is made of useless things. They become dispassionate and they do not want to live in this body. So they committed suicides. And that's because they can't concentrate. They weren't able to be mindful of that thought process. So they started to commit suicides. And then Buddha having seen it from his vision, and then stopped them, and then further practice more in the practice. Like that. So that's why these possibility you may experience as well. So in those cases, you have to have a very clear awareness that I am having it. So rather than thinking, you just need to change your object. Look at the nature. Yes?
It happened to me, as you know.
Yeah.
I didn't contemplate suicide, but I lost interest for life.
Yeah.
Everything was in dark clouds for me. Once I realized that nothing.
Yeah.
So I started practicing yoga after that, to give this body, instead of kind of seeing it as worthless and useless, I started treating it as a useful machine that I can use. And any machine like the car, you have to drive all the time, you have to change oil, so you can use it for the good purpose. So that saved money.
Yeah. Okay. So that can happen, right? So whenever these feelings arises, this state of the mind arises, rather than contemplating on that state, you just need to change your object of meditation. Yeah? So you do not have to force yourself to meditate. Do not think that I need to go to enlightenment on that day. No. Okay? Just give up and enjoy and relax.
What about if we just take for granted that this is not our body and that's it?
That's also not good. That committing suicide is it's called moha. You are committing it out of ignorance, and then in that case, if we believe in law of karma, as the Buddha said, then we will be reborn as an animal, or will be going into the lower realms than animals. So that because of sheer ignorance, right? And your mind is so dull, no energy at all. So that's why it's not good at all. And that's why committing suicide is always bad. Always bad. Because of the mental state is so bad, and when you commit suicide, then that can take you to the lower realms. But having said that, doesn't mean there are not who attain enlightenment while you are committing suicide.
In Japan.
Yes.
In Japan, when they do harakiri consciously, with higher purpose. And what I was going to say, what's the Buddha's view or teachings? So let's say somebody realized that this is just the body, bag of muscles and bones, and they fully realize that, and they still have life to live. So how do they dwell on this body?
Now, the moment when that person fully realizes, then that person will not stay in a household life for more than 7 days. They will become monks or nuns. They cannot bear living in the household. Right?
And what if the monk realizes that?
If monks realize, it's fine, because they are not dwelling with the worldly affairs, because they can stay in a monk life without any trouble. Sometimes they can go off for many days without thinking of anything, because they have realized that they do not worry anything. So that's why there is no problem of a realization, but if a householder realizes it, then they will not stay more than 7 days. Okay, so that is the, again, this is a theory.
I often feel, I didn't say it today, but this will be a surprise to you. I often feel that when with one leg I am staying in this world, but half of me is in the other world. It's like I am forcing myself to stay here because I want to be somewhere else.
No, in this case, you have to think of you are not fully freed. So you're still having the hands and the legs to this and that, different responsibilities and duties. So as a result of that, then you still, and these responsibilities and duties are not because they made it you. You are.
Yes, I am. Okay.
And as a result, you will be still there. But the very moment when you free yourself from those, then obviously you will not. You will simply, okay, this is my time to go. But having said that, again, if you look at the stories in the Buddha's time, despite realizing those, because of the responsibilities, they didn't leave. They didn't leave. But that realization wasn't fully realized. They were only realized the satipatthana, not the arhats. Like Visakha, Mahaupasika who attained the enlightenment at the age of I think 10 or 7, and she stayed with a family, and later on she married, she even had a child, like that. She never left household, but she remained as a satipatthana. And meanwhile, there are other stories like a lady, she wanted to become a nun, but her parents told her that we brought you up so well, and we have a fear that you may will suffer being a nun. So do not. So the parents basically didn't allow her to become a nun. So parents asked her to marry with another man. And then they went and married and stayed. And then after a while, this lady told her husband that my intention is not to marry. My intention is always been become a nun. And then that he also respected her thoughts and allowed her to become a nun. And when he became a nun, the story is he was already pregnant, but she didn't know. So she became a nun, and then after becoming a nun for some months later, her pregnancy became bigger and bigger. And it was a trouble. So she was staying, the story says, she was staying in the monastery where the Devadatta was the abbot. Devadatta was the abbot. And then, because of fear of blame and shame, so he simply, without judging, without investigating, he said, "Oh, you have done wrong, now you have to destroy." Now her mind was so pure, and she always wanted to be a nun, right? So she was crying, "No, this is not my fault, I didn't do anything wrong," and so on. But Devadatta was adamant that no, you have to go. So then this nun asked her one of friends and say, "I didn't become a nun under the Devadatta. I became a nun under the Buddha. So I want to see the Buddha, and whatever Buddha summoned, she's happy to do." So she went to see the Buddha, and then so Buddha again called other people to judge. So there were Venerable Upali, who was the excellent in the Vinaya, the rules. There was a Upasika, Visakha Upasika as a lady, she was there, and the King Pasandi was there. So Buddha used these 3 people and investigated. So Visakha went in and then investigated her physiology, all her condition, and then she confirms that her pregnancy was before she became a nun. Then Buddha said, "Okay then." So lived, and then later, after 9 months later, she gave birth to a baby. She gave birth to a baby, and she was nun, and she was so happy to see her own child. But still, she wanted to be a nun. Doesn't want to live. And then one day, Pasandi Kosal, the king, he visits the temple, and now she lives with the temple where the Buddha was. The king Pasandi visits, and then he heard baby crying. Baby is crying in the monastery. So he asked his attendants to find out, whose baby is crying? So they went and found that, this is nun's baby. So then the king begged to a nun, saying that okay, this is not nice, this is not good. So can I adopt this baby? So king adopted this baby to a palace. And then this baby grown up a little bit, and when this baby goes to play with other children, they will scold him off, saying, fatherless, motherless baby, like that. And initially he wasn't aware of that, so he went later on as he grew up. The other children continue saying and bullying him like that. So he went to speak with the king, and king told him, oh yes. So that time he was, I think, 9 years old now. That time, 9 or 10, and he said that, oh yes, you are a son of a nun. And having heard that, this prince said that, okay, I want to be a novice. Would you permit? And King Pasendi said, okay. So that's how he became novice monk called Kumara. Kumara Kassapa. Sorry, his name was Kassapa. And then because there were other Kassapa monks, he was so cute and small, and that's why he is called, oh, that Kumara Kassapa, that cute boy. And that's how he became a novice monk. And then later, having understood that he was born in a temple, a nun's son, so he spent a lot of time devoting himself, study and practice, and later on he becomes an arhat. And after becoming an arhat, he comes back to see his mother. And his mother haven't seen him for a long time. Haven't seen him for a long time. The mother's mind is a mother's mind. Doesn't matter how many years. The mothers and the fathers always think their children is still baby. They want to see. And they want to. It doesn't matter how old they are. Always, oh, you should do this. You should do that. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. And this is same happened to a nun. So she wanted to see this Kumara Kassapa. And then one day she heard that Kumara Kassapa was coming into the city. Early morning he was going for an alms around. And then she was desperately wanted to see the Kumara Kassapa. So she ran. And when she was running towards her own son, she tangled with her own robe. So with that, ball went on the floor. And then Kumara Kassapa saw. Then he was an arhat. And he said, oh, if I say even little bit of a sympathy on her, she would not learn anything. So I have to tell her. And then he said, you've been a monk, you've been a nun for so long, and even little bit you can't give up. And then she was surprised. And I said, what did you say? So he repeated again, and then he didn't stop. He simply walked away. And her heart was like a broken heart. It's like a fall down from the big mountain. Big mountain, and trembled everything. Okay.
I am surprised a little bit about this story, because it's not the fact that the nun had the baby, but once her body produced another body, this bond developed, and the Buddha allowed her to be the nun with this bondage.
But she couldn't attain because her mind was constantly thinking of her baby. But the very moment when Kumara Kassapa told her in that way, she was troubled. She didn't go for a pindapata and she couldn't eat. She didn't want to eat. It was like even you may have
Depression.
not a depression. You may have feel sad when you're like Natasha telling you, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be scolding me, or you shouldn't do this. You may be feeling upset. So she also became very upset and didn't eat. And then after the day, she realized, oh, even my son is neglecting me. Why should I think about him? I should not think about him at all. So she completely gave up. She let go of her grasp, the mind that was attached, and that was the fetter, not allowing her to attain the enlightenment. And after that, she gave up and then went into practice. And then she realized later, after she attained the enlightenment, oh, Kumara Kassapa is great. So scolding his mother caused her to be the enlightened. Right? So like that. Where we came from there.
A long way back.
Anyway, okay, so I think we have covered only one sentence, okay, and that is the internally and externally. So next week we will come to the next sentence, the Samudaya Vaya Dhamma, okay, the origination and the passing away section. Before we practicing loving kindness, it's already 9:05. Anybody wants to add anything or share or ask? Please do so.
Yes, Ajahn, I have a question. I don't know if we have enough time to deal with it. On your understanding of the translation of the words internally and externally, a close translation.
Yeah.
So why do we need to interpret them? Because if they're a close translation,
Yes.
internally means internally,
Yes.
and externally based on the fact that one is practicing in a forest.
Yeah.
Externally of the body can mean nothing other than externally of the body,
Yeah.
the surface and sensations of the body.
Yeah.
So I suppose my question is, if that is the case, why are there other interpretations other than the normal human desire to create something that one needs not create?
Yeah, that is a hypothesis. Everybody has it. So that's why there is different interpretation.
This is why Buddha didn't write the books.
Yeah. So this is difficult one. That's why, and again, in the practice, if you read the lineage of so many masters that we can find nowadays, hardly any technique or any methods or any centers are teaching externally practicing. Basically means, thinking of other people. There is none. We can't find yet. I can't find. I don't know. Maybe there is, but I don't know. We normally, as even this translation, this book says, we always focusing on us, but we do not practice on it. other people. And then I have explained a little bit on that other people. As our mind becomes so subtler and subtler, and we realize that this body is not us, and this body is made out of 4 elements and it's subject to decay, and we feel dispassionate. And having seen that, we relate to other people, thinking, like bringing into our minds that, this is my father, this is my friend, this is my fellow friends. They are also going through the same thing. But I wonder whether they have understood or not. Wish they can understand. So my body is no different than others. Others' body is not different than mine. So with this, you're relating with that. You're basically developing a kindness and compassion towards other people as well as yours. So this is my understanding. Right? And before this understanding, I was agree with Mr. Goenka, the translation, and then I couldn't comprehend the commentary that why it is saying other people. And I had a similar view with Mr. Goenka that this meditation is for you, for the purification of yourself, for freedom of your all the troubles, and why you are referring to others. Doesn't make sense, like that. But again, over the period of time, as I was practicing, then that developed, that or another experience. And then what you have explained, that the inside and outside body, the outer body is this, and that was also one time experience, and thinking that that is right at that time. At that time, like that. So with this, and obviously, other great masters, they have experienced differently on the same theme. So they explain in a deeper level from their experience. And doesn't mean that is right. That's what I'm saying. Doesn't mean that is right. There is possibility of a wrong interpretation. So we don't have a Buddha, and we don't have enlightened being to, say this is the right, or that is the right. Right? So it's a mystery.
I found an easy answer. This body is all the food I've eaten since I was born.
Yes.
This is the 5 elements.
Yes.
That's easy for me to
Yeah, the simple form of thinking of that one. Right? But there are other forms as well, other foods.
Mental food.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the physical body.
Even the physical body. To sustain the physical body, we have to have a consciousness as well. Without the consciousness, this body won't survive.
Each cell has its consciousness.
Yeah, so that's why. But in a simple form, whatever I have eaten, this is me. Okay? Right. Okay. Shall we practice loving kindness? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so settle down yourself. And take a long breath and release yourself and relax. It's like taking the heat out of your head. And relax. And spend some time reflecting tonight's session on particularly the internal, external, internal and external. We'll practice the loving kindness meditation. So feel the entire body, allowing yourself to be happy, free from suffering. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be at peace. May I be well, may I be happy, may I be at peace. Similarly, sharing loving kindness and compassion to all other sentient beings, starting from the ideal ones. Whatever beings there are, may they be well, may they be happy, may they be at peace. And bring your attention to the body. Feel the sensations in your body. And to your eyes. And as you hear the gong, slowly come out from meditation and reflect for a few moments. Let's respect. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantam Abhivati Sawagato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Subhatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.
you.
Okay, Satu, thank you. Okay. Satu, and good night. Thank you, Margaret. Good night. See you tomorrow.